Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is, wherever you are. Welcome to today's Grain Market Blast. It is Tuesday, the 26th of August, all day. You join myself and the amazing Angie Setzer, where Angie will be providing us with a rapid roundup of the latest pricing flows and market moving news in agricultural markets. But before she does, I will get the legals out of the way. Nothing discussed on the spaces such and constitute trading or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by PIQ, myself, Ryan Paisley, or indeed the glamorous with a capital G, Angie Setzer.
Hola, senor.
Hola!
How are you?
Hola! I'm very
Hey,
well. How are you?
I am super. Thanks for asking.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah, going forward, if 9:30 is easier, we can start then too. I don't know. Colton has decided that he's the boss and he's like, look at me. I'm the captain now. And people will be
Well,
like, oh, you're a bad mom. And I'll be like, you try it with him then. Dare ya.
as far as I'm concerned, he is the boss anyway. So yeah, if we need to move to 9:45, so be it.
So I appreciate it. Welcome everybody. Happy Tuesday. A few different things, not much though. I have to come up with bullet points ahead of this, and I obviously put out a Grains in Context midday update. That's not a plug. That's just what I do. And so I've really got to work to put some stuff together because I feel like there's a lot, but not enough to talk about. Like, and we've talked about this before, right? Like, it's just such a weird, dynamic in this market right now. But the biggest thing that I'm paying attention to is China. And so I figured we'd start our lovely Tuesday morning with a little bit of, where have we been? Where are we now? Where are we going? With the China chatter and all that good stuff. So, I guess I don't even know which spot to start in, but big news yesterday afternoon, or I think part of what's circulating this morning that's causing, like, I've gotten it in my email twice now, and I'm like, you guys, he said this yesterday afternoon. So like if you're just now recirculating this document, Trump warns Xi of a 200% tariff, like that happened yesterday. I don't, you know what I mean? And so, but everyone's recirculating it like, oh my God, you guys here? Yes, we did. It happened yesterday afternoon at like 3 p.m. But in any event, as part of what you're seeing here is there is that threat. Basically like if they were to shut off rare earth magnets, they'd see this big tariff. Like we know, like we've already been here. This basically is just him reiterating that we have a trade truce. And if they were to not do what they said they were going to do, then shit goes sideways. And so that's where we're at. That's not news. That's not a new threat. That's just basically him reiterating, and so, we are seeing though, part of what you saw here on the overnight and some of the move higher in soybeans is there is talk that we will see China's high level trade delegation make its way to DC this week and sit down with Greer, and other members of, the Treasury, I think it said or whatever. Greer is good. We like Greer. Greer's great. Let's send Lutnick on vacation. Let's make sure that he, is off doing something else because we could just use negotiations without, our buddy there on that side of things. But they specifically have said, the focus on the conversations is China really wants to get this fentanyl tariff lifted. And so what does it take to make that happen? Because if you don't pull it, then we're not going to buy beans, from you. And you really need to buy beans. And they're somewhat bolstered by the letters and things that are also screaming, Trump, we need China to buy beans. And so at this point in time, they have a little bit more in the way of leverage in the short term, I'd say. But you are going to have these conversations, and in the meantime, you're still seeing China make purchases out of Brazil for October and November. Now, I want, everyone to kind of remember me saying this right now. I do feel by the time we get to October, and it might not even take that long, you're going to have a lot of people be like, oh, those purchases ended up being optional origin and they were planning on pulling them out of the U.S. anyway, because I will say right now, I don't think Brazil has the physical beans to really kind of follow through on a big export program in that October, November, December timeframe if they were to try to stretch it, and they basically end up having to import soybeans in order to cover their domestic crush. So there's a lot of things there that'll be interesting to watch. But the biggest thing, of course, is going to be how the conversation plays out at the end of the week, and whether or not you see the administration pull back the fentanyl tariffs and open the door to the soybean purchases. On the chip side too, I do want to point out, part of some of the negativity there at the end of the week last week, I think it was, or maybe it was the start of yesterday. I mean, it all blurs. It was yesterday. We were down yesterday. It just all blurs together after a while.
Yes.
A lot of people really kind of focused on the NVIDIA. Remember we were talking about them shutting off the
Yeah.
H20 chip, and all that. We're like, okay, that's not really news. Like they just basically China has said they don't want it. This has been on song and dance for a year now. Like they're really pushing for what's the new one called? The new chip?
Yeah, I
You're
can't
supposed to
remember. To
remember.
be
I
fair.
wrote it down. Hold on.
Sorry.
What the
There are
hell?
so many of them going for. I actually
Blackwell.
read it out this morning.
Isn't it
Yes,
like the
Blackwell.
Blackwell, like
Yes.
Herculean chip or something? Like it has a really like super cute name or something. That's the chip they want. And it's an underperforming chip compared to what the technology companies have here in the US. I think it's like half rate of performance is basically what they're saying, but it's better than the H20, H2O chip, however you're supposed to say it. And basically this has been my opinion for a while that China's angling for, the higher level technology or
Yeah.
access to that higher level technology. And, basically in this instance here, them, kind of they brought up the security concerns on the H20 chip a year ago, shut up about it. When it got shut off, said they wanted it. And then when it got shut off in April, said they really, really wanted it. When it got reopened in July, they rediscussed the security issues basically and said, nope, we don't want that one. Shut her down, and now we're seeing them come up with this new chip, yada, yada, yada. So that's what we're looking at. Obviously the market is hyper focused on China bean demand and the idea that we aren't going to have any. So any sort of show up of China bean demand is probably going to be somewhat supportive, especially considering the fact that the USDA has cut the new crop export outlook to the bone already. So
Yeah.
that'll be the biggest thing that we're watching. There were some rumors yesterday too that China might be releasing soybeans out of their government reserves. You may have remembered I brought that up last week, I think,
Yeah.
that would be the next step. Like, if they really want to leverage this thing and really try to say that they're not buying anything, you're going to see them start to release beans out of the reserve. All that's going to do is buy them time. They're going to have to replace those reserves with beans, and typically those are U.S. beans that they buy to put them in there. So that's where we're at with the China. The sentiment's still super negative. Everyone's expecting it to be absolutely terrible, forever and ever, and they're never going to buy. And I'm going to say that we'll probably be talking a little bit of a different talk here in another couple months, as long as nothing stupid happens. On the other side of things, which that's a big as long as, right? Like, who knows? Other stuff that we're looking at, weather at the finish is kind of one of the things that's been on my mind. A lot of people love to look at rainfall amounts, for soybeans over like the last 8 weeks, or like they'll go, like I saw someone share, and I'm not picking on it by any means, but, really shared a map of like July, August rainfall. And we're like, I'm going to say the crop is made. And I was like, that's cute. But the rainfall in June and July is what got you the record pod count, right? So the record pod count at the end of last week was a function of the better growing conditions at the start of the growing season. Pods do not equate yield. They equate to yield potential. If you don't get, at least, and a lot of people will be like, oh, it's one load or one rain is all you need. You know what I mean? And an inch of rain the first week of August, crops made. That's not how it works. And so if you are really dry and the plant doesn't have the ability or the moisture to fill these pods, you're going to end up with a lot of 2 bean pods. You're going to end up with, someone said BBs versus bowling balls. And that's what it is. It's a size thing. It's all of these other things. And so, we have a lot of places in the Eastern Corn Belt that were drier in the month of August than they were last year. And so, to have Pro Farmer, to have a lot of these folks like to point out these record pod counts and 53, 54 bushel to the acre bean yield potential, we would have been there if we'd have gotten rain across the bulk of the Corn Belt here, at least 2 of them, one at the start of the month and one at the end. We are going to go into the end of this. This crop is going to finish dry. There's also some risk potentially of much below normal temperatures here as we work our way into September. The Euro AI is showing, at least it was yesterday, that it could get cold. There's one weather group that was talking, using the F word with frost, and some of these other, things that we have to watch. And so, I do think that this crop, it reminds me of basically it ran a beautiful race, and looks like it might have tripped in the last mile.
No, got you.
So, that's really where we're at, and honestly, like we won't be able to pin down what exactly, we have for yield and production as a whole until we work our way through harvest. But it will be one of those things that we're watching. If you start to see basis firm, especially in the Western Corn Belt, quickly, or even in the eastern, but anywhere, like basis starts to firm quick as harvest gets started or something like that, then that'll be a sign that we have less beans on hand than what we thought. The other thing that's given me a lot of caution, and I have backyard, like I'm going to fully admit I have backyarditis in this. But we have seen disease take off here in a big way. Like, 73 degrees yesterday afternoon, and you could see the corn showing signs of stress, and, we're browning down. We shouldn't be. We're a small section of the ag belt, of course. But I am hearing, similar stories of disease and some of these other things. And so just, kind of the weather has been less than ideal in the month of August in a lot of places, especially the Eastern Corn Belt and, specifically. I do know that there are some folks in the Western Belt that have had almost perfect rainfall. They've caught the rains that they needed. They're going to have a hellacious crop. And it's been hellacious. I love that word. And it's been interesting to see too. One of the things I want to point out, like if you're in the Western Corn Belt right now and you're kind of looking around and are like, oh my God, we're drowning in beans, we're drowning in corn. We have all of these excess supplies. Like the USDA, I've had a couple different people argue, the USDA is wrong. In last year's yield, we had more production because XYZ. Obviously, we'll see. We're going to get an update, the end of the month on September 1st stocks, and really how this market trades into delivery this week is going to be the biggest indicator of crop size at the end or whatever. But I will say, I think it's one of those things that's super obvious in the Western Corn Belt that you had two, basically record crops back to back, north to south.
Right.
And so that's not something that we've seen in the Western Corn Belt that I can remember in my career. Now, I've not been in the Western Corn Belt, so obviously it's happened before. But some of what I think the farmers and merchandisers and folks in the Western Belt, are seeing that is influencing maybe their thoughts on what's going on across the whole country is more isolated in a result of, oh, holy shit, we had, two record crops back to back, and we have great demand, but we're not used to having this much. So
Right.
we'll see. We'll see how the week finishes. All the other fun things are taking place there. But otherwise here, to start the day, corn tried to trade higher here. It's now, a bit lower to get going. Beans tried to trade higher as well overnight. They're currently a dime off of their high, and down. Oh, my screen just went dark on me. So that's what happens when you don't remember, right? You're like, down a dime, I think. Down 2, sorry. So, yeah, that's about all she wrote. Wheat's up 3. There's not, I feel like there's not much to talk about, but there's still tons. And it'll be all China, all that relationship all the time. So we'll see where we head and go from there.
Awesome. Well, Angie, thank you so much as usual. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning in for this rapid update. I know I appreciate Angie, and I'm sure you guys all do too. And we'll see you all tomorrow. Much love.
Have a good one, guys.